Great job on making it this far into the course. In earlier lessons, we set up a number of routes within index.js, and now it's up to us to hook up those routes within our front-end code. So we can make these clickable as well. So we've got all of those values being output there. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this up that we can actually link out and visit one of the pages. So right now we're just listing out the users. We saw earlier that we can list out password and ID, and we can pick that information up. So let's make these clickable hyperlinks that they're going to go out to the new page whenever you click them so that you can see that JSON data for the users. So the route was very simple, that we would just do users and then the user ID. And this would output that JSON formatted content. And then of course we could do whatever we wanted within that for that content. So let's set that up. And what we want to do is we want to add a link. And this can just be a simple hyperlink going over to wherever this path is located. Let's open up this a little bit bigger so we get it all on one page. And target blank. And what we can do is actually, let's build out our hyperlink over here, and then we're just going to drop it in as a variable. Because I got a feeling this one is going to get fairly long. And then this can just say the URL, or actually let's output the ID. So let's do value ID, because we're already picking that up, so we might as well make use of it. And then all we need to do is just add that into our string here. So there we go. So we're creating a new list item. We're going to add that hyperlink. And we know the path is users. And we can reuse this ID in this slot as well. So let's see what this looks like. So go ahead and save that. Refresh. And now we've got hyperlinks going out to wherever the user information. And I'm not going to do anything further with this, but we are getting that JSON formatted data. And then of course you can make use for it as needed. So the next thing that we wanted to do as well is we want to be able to edit, update, delete. So let's open up our editor again. And in this case, we want to actually delete that value. So let's go into our routes and we'll take a look at our delete. So the delete is simply, we're sending a delete request over to this particular path. So that's all it's doing, and we need to do it within an AJAX format, so we can't do it in a hyperlink. So let's get rid of that, and let's set that up within a hyperlink. So adding in an X, I'm going to do it within a span class, and I'll call it remove X, and we'll close off that span. So I want this to be clickable. So let's set that up now. We'll make it so that whenever this gets clicked, we'll do another AJAX call. And this time it's going to be a delete. And we have to do this a little bit differently because this is a dynamic element that gets created. So when we run the document, it's not present there, which means that if we try to attach an event listener to the class of remove, we're not going to be able to pick it up. So we have to attach the event listener to the parent. So this one is currently present. So we attach the event listener to the parent, and then we do click. And we can do it within this type of format where we do on click. And then here we can specify another parameter, and then this is going to be actually the class remove. And then here we have what happens when we're trying to remove it. So let's set that up in console log and double check that it's working. We can make this smaller again, a refresh. So now we've got these X's and they're saying remove. So that's all up and ready. So the next thing that we wanted to do is actually pass a value into there so that we know that there is a value associated, and that's that ID. So the only thing that we need to do is be able to pick up the ID. So there's a number of ways that we can do that. So we can use data in jQuery in order to attach a value to the newly created element using data and then specifying what we want to name the data. So we're going to name it ID, and then the value that we want it to pass in. So it's data value ID. So we're grabbing that from that value object from the users. Let's refresh. And then in order to pick that information up, we can grab that using this and data ID. And the problem here is that we're actually not going to get the value because remember, we're applying this ID to the list item. So we're not applying it to the span, and when we click the span, then it doesn't have that data ID attached to it. So the solution is to traverse up to the parent, refresh, and now whenever we click these, we can see that we're actually passing those IDs. So the next step is relatively simple, that all we need to do is do an AJAX call and simply use the method delete to the correct path, and that should delete out that particular user. So let's set that up. And then within here, we need to specify a URL. So the URL that we're going to is actually going to be users. So it's /users, and then / is going to be where we're trying to go to. So we can do it within this type of format. So let's set up a variable here. So we can do users ID. Type is going to be a delete. And success. So just do a success function here, and we're going to get our response information. And then we'll console log out whatever the response is. And we should also check to see if we actually have a response there ready to go. So let's refresh, and now let's click these, and we see that we've deleted 0, and if we refresh, it's gone. We can delete this one as well. We refresh, it's completely gone. And we can add in new ones, refresh, so there's our new one, and refresh again. So there is a problem here that it's actually not building out the list. Every time we need to refresh, every time we take an action, we update the database. So let's do one more thing here where as we're building this out, we're going to set this up in a function, and then we can simply call over to that function whenever we need to build out our content. So this will be build page and drop it in there. And I'm going to clean that up. So now every time I want to rebuild the page, so every time we do a post or an AJAX request, and of course we do need one right in the beginning as well to set up our page content. All we need to do is call over to that function. So after we've successfully done that, done the delete, so refresh, and now we can add in content, and we can see it gets added in there. And there is one problem that it's duplicating that all out. So we actually have to clear out, we have to empty out that particular element before we append into it. So let's take care of that as well. So the first thing we want to do whenever we build the page, let's just clear this out. So refresh, and we'll try it one more time. So now we can add in, we can remove out elements, and we've got a fairly dynamic API all ready to go, built out. So one of the problems here as well is that these IDs, they're not really working out great because we're just simply adding in an ID, and obviously we don't have a database, so we were just generating these. So we might be better off just doing a timestamp ID. So that might work a little bit better because this way we're not having unique IDs. So that can become problematic if I try to get rid of that one. It doesn't necessarily mean we're getting rid of the right ones because we're just doing it by the ID. And for the ID itself, we're actually going to have more than one for that path. So if I get rid of one again and I do test, and now if I do this, if I get rid of this, we've got two of them. So it is actually taking the first one, but if I want to get rid of the second one, it's going to get rid of the first one. So it's not going to get rid of the second one. So that becomes problematic. So we need to make an update and fix that. So we're going to do that, and we're going to apply some fixes, as well as do the last route that we've set up, and that was the put route. So we'll fix those up in the upcoming lesson.